Hello, people of the internet. I missed the video last month, but I have a very good reason. I went to the Isle of Wight. If you want to know more about that, follow me on Instagram. My account is private though, so you will have to send a follow request. I have a highlight on my profile, and I'm still posting the pictures as and when I remember to, from the nature park we went to in Southampton. But also, I have procrastinated this video because it is a difficult and controversial topic that I'm going to go into, and as you see, I have a new wig. I want to start with that before we get into the nitty gritty. It was my birthday on April 1st. Yes, I am an April Fool. My life is a huge fucking joke. And I gotta laugh or I'll cry. All the time. Why am I so fucking depressing? But I don't have any will to live. I don't know if you can tell. I'm very tired. I have chronic fatigue syndrome. And I've had a lot of high pain days recently. I didn't even know if I'd make the video this month, but here I am, I guess. But anyway, for my birthday I got 4 new wigs. This is one of them. I thought this one would be my favourite wig, but coincidentally it's not. It's this green number that's kind of like the reverse of the Billie Eilish ghost root look. It's like a bob with a tail at the back. It's gorgeous. You'll probably see it in another video I do later, because I am gonna like try and wear a different wig for each video because the wigs are nice and I want to show them off. These wigs are made by a wonderful woman. You can follow her on Instagram at Hazel Wigs. She makes absolutely beautiful wigs which are not only high quality but very affordable. These are so sleek and nice, and I can tell that they are going to last a long time, especially compared to the first wig I ever wore, which was a Shein wig, which, you know, I had no idea how to take care of wigs at first, and it's been a learning process, but I know how to take care of them. I know how to trim them properly now, and I usually have a wig on the go for trimming. This is my rainbow wig, and I'm going to trim this up and sell it because I have so many other wigs now and I just don't vibe with this bright hot pink sort of colour. I like more pastel tones, if you can't tell. But anyway, enough about wigs. Let's get into the topic, and today I want to talk about addiction, which some people might not know is a disease, and it is one that can completely change the course of somebody's life and even ruin people's lives. And I have grown up around people with addictions. I have seen what it can do to people, and I've experienced the heartbreak of watching somebody go through addiction. And I'm not going to get too much into that because it's not my story to tell. But I thank the stars every single day that this person is sober, and they might be watching this video, and if you are, I love you and I'm so proud of you, and I hope to see many more years with you. But basically this addiction nearly took the life of my loved one, and you know, my heart broke over and over again growing up with that, but I have grown up and dealt with addictions myself now, so I have more of a place of understanding than I probably did when I was younger. But anyway, there are misconceptions about addiction, that it's a choice. It is not a choice. It might be a choice the first time to do something, but there are chemicals out there which are highly addictive, and if you didn't know, even caffeine and sugar are addictive substances which most people are addicted to, and they don't see it that way, but it is that way. And then there's dependency, which isn't addiction. It's when your body and your brain chemistry is changed so much by a substance that without that substance you will suffer. And a lot of people don't know the difference between addiction and dependency, but I've been on both sides of this coin, and I am dependent right now. I'm dependent on the opioids that I take for my endometriosis, and it's been like the only thing that has helped me really. And I have tried a lot of different medications, but if I was to go without this medication, it would have a drastic impact, not just physically for me, but also emotionally. And I feel like a lot of the times it regulates my emotions more than it does the physical pain, because no drug out there can 100% take away pain, especially pain like endometriosis. It's, for me, a sharp but also burning feeling just to the left of my pelvis. And there are some days where I feel like I've given up and I feel like I can't cope anymore, but I get through those days. And I think everybody has those days, no matter what you're dealing with. There are just some days where you don't feel like you can do it anymore, and that's okay. It's okay not to be okay. And if you're struggling, please feel free, as I said, follow me on Instagram at Seaweed Vibes. You can talk to me, even if I, don't have much to say, I at least listen. So yeah, I don't want anyone out there suffering alone, because I know what that's like. Anyway, let's get on to addiction. Now, right now, I am addicted to nicotine, and I am actually in the process of quitting smoking using nicotine pouches. This is my favourite brand. I've tried a couple other brands, but UBS offer the absolute best depth of flavour that I've found, and they have delicious flavours. Right now I've got berry flavour, peach passion and salted caramel. And salted caramel is my favourite. I think salted caramel overall is my favourite flavour when it comes to anything. And with smoking, I was able to pick it up and put it down for about 10 years. I started smoking regularly at 15 years old, which I do not recommend, but a lot of people do start, that early or even earlier than that. And the earlier you start, the harder it is to quit. And when you're that young, it sort of makes you feel like you're more mature and you're more grown up, but you're not. What you're doing is putting your body and your health at risk for something that, I will be honest with you, really isn't worth it, in my opinion. And I quit many times, but always went back. And this most recent time, I relied on it as a crutch for a lot of emotional issues that I was going through, a lot of anxiety. But I am willing to make changes, and I need to quit because I have an upcoming surgery within the next 12 to 14 months. And with this surgery I will have to be taking hormones afterwards as well, which also put me at a higher risk for heart problems. And I'm also at risk for stroke as well because of the chronic migraines that I suffer with. And recently, somebody that I follow on Instagram, which is someone else who has chronic illnesses, they had a stroke, and it really hit me hard. It made me really emotional, and I think about her often and I wish her well, but it's incredibly sad to see somebody that's only like 28 years old, I think she is, have a stroke just because of a migraine disorder. And a lot of people probably don't know that migraines put you at a higher risk for stroke, but they do, because it affects your brain chemistry. And I'm also like physically and biologically dependent on the medications I take for that. Recently, my GP surgery messed up with my propranolol, and I had to miss a dose, and it made me really, really incredibly ill, because I also have heart palpitations, and I've been diagnosed as having an extra heartbeat from the bottom chambers of my heart. So if I'm not on this beta blocker, which is what it is, it's a prophylaxis for migraines, you know, my heart rate was uncontrollable. It was unbearable standing up, let alone having to walk to the pharmacy to go and get my medication. But I made it through. I gritted my teeth and I made it through. But I really would not recommend going off of a medication that you are prescribed cold turkey. And it's just sad that these doctors or whoever it is are failing me. I recently had a pharmacist gaslight me as well about another medication which my surgeon increased for me in like January, I think it was. And he gaslit me and said, no, there's nothing here that says you are on higher medication. And honestly, it gets really, really tiring having to fight every single second of every day with these illnesses. And that's why I turned to addictions. I was ill all of my life. You know, I was born sick, really, and for the past like 6-7 years I have been fighting and fighting, and only now have I gained some ground, and I finally got my chronic fatigue diagnosis in December, which I have a video on that if you want to go watch it. But addictions help people cope when there's other things going on. There are neurodivergencies, basically. It can be anyone from autism to mental health problems like anxiety and depression. Usually there is an imbalance of brain chemicals which can put you at a higher risk for becoming addicted to things. And I've got to say, the worst addiction that I've come across is probably alcoholism. It's probably because I have a lot of personal experience with it, but I have witnessed somebody in the later stages of a heroin addiction as they struggled and passed away, and that was quite sad, actually. You know, they were already deep into it by the time I'd met with them, but I had to witness this person slowly decline, and then one day they went to hospital and I was going over to feed the cats, and they never came home. So addiction takes away your freedom, and in some cases it will take your life. And with alcoholism, if you stop cold turkey as well, because it's not just mental, it's a biological addiction, you can die. There's this detox thing that happens where after a while of not having even a little bit of alcohol in your system just to balance out your chemicals, you will start to have seizures. And it starts with just tremoring, but when it gets to the point of seizures, you really need to be in hospital for that. And that's like not the only thing. You know, it damages your liver and gives you liver cirrhosis, which I've never experienced, but I can imagine how painful that is. Because basically liver cirrhosis is when your liver starts to die whilst it's still inside your body. But if you're not in the end stages of cirrhosis, you can recover. If you stop drinking, your liver will recover itself. That is one wonderful thing about our body, is there are mechanisms and ways the body can heal itself, even after you've been addicted to something. Like, at the moment my lungs are probably recovering from the smoking, and I do have a little difficulty breathing every now and again, which is strange because when I was smoking I didn't really have much difficulty with breathing, but my body is getting rid of the things and the tissue in my lungs are healing. And quite a few addictions do affect the heart as well. Things like cannabis, which is also something that I used to be addicted to, that increases your heart rate. So does smoking cigarettes. And then your body gets used to the chemicals speeding up your heart rate. But for me, I had to quit smoking cannabis, and I might not have even stopped. I might have still been addicted now if I hadn't been put on a medication which made smoking absolutely unbearable. You know, my heart would race, and then I'd get really paranoid and anxious, which I'm already an anxious person. I've been diagnosed with GAD for a long time now, and I've done therapy for that, but it's best not to mix chemicals into it that are going to exacerbate conditions like that. And I have no disrespect for people that like to smoke weed or anything. You know, you do you. But there is a healthy amount of anything that's fine. But then once you cross the line into territory where you don't feel normal without doing something, then you're addicted. And a lot of people don't stop to evaluate that once they're in the beginning of it, because it makes you feel good. As I said, it changes the chemicals in your brain, and when you have a chemical imbalance, like people with ADHD or people with depression, there are drugs that release dopamine, release serotonin, and they will become addictive. I was addicted to ecstasy as well for a brief time. It was a couple of months back when I was 19, before COVID. And at that time I couldn't see how bad it was until I was literally vomiting, because every weekend I was doing that stuff and I was depressed all the rest of the time. And you know, it got to a point where my body was like, that's enough now, you need to stop, you need to slow down. And now I fully embrace a slower pace of life. I mean, I've had to, you know, I've been very, very humbled by the illnesses that I'm suffering with. And you shouldn't get to the point that I have where, you know, you have no other choice, it's do or die. And I'm not trying to be disrespectful. Please, please don't think that. If you are struggling, as I said, you can always talk to me. You know, I understand a lot of things. And you know, I've been addicted to several different things that have different effects on the body and the mind. And if you are ready to quit, then I'm proud. I'm happy that you're taking the steps to improve your life, but there is no shame in admitting that you are addicted to something, and there's no shame in trying to get help for that. Anyway, I hope I made a good point and this is cohesive, because I'm terrible at talking to people, but I'm talking to a camera, so I don't know. I hope you're having a good day and have a good rest of the month, and I'll see you next month with hopefully another video. Please make a suggestion down below if you want me to talk about anything, and I suppose I'll see you later.